moving, or rather the world is now looking to Africa to feed the world. And of course we can do it because we have the technologies that are available. Yes, we could need maybe additional finances, but as a continent, Africa is able to produce its own food, specifically oil producers, to feed itself, but also to feed the globe as a whole. So, number one, the globe as a whole. So, number one, where they have big commercial farmers, big commercial farming is happening, and that's how they are able to feed the globe. So, this is a call to African processors, African policymakers, that we need to really invest in commercial farming in order for us to be able to feed the globe. And also, to everybody here, I know there are processors from India, but also processors from Tanzania as well. We can join hands together to ensure that we engage really in commercial farming to be able to sort of feed our nations, but also feed the globe as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you brought out some very important, interesting points. One thing which keeps coming to mind in India, and I keep talking to my friends in India to ask them why don't they go and invest in Africa. Now, everybody's excited about Africa, but then when it comes to actually coming to Africa and investing here, one big key doubt is that it's very difficult to invest and be sure. Things are very inconsistent, or they can change overnight, and nobody wants to take that kind of risk. So in the current government regime and the way things are, there should be a possibility to change this perception. And I believe if you do change that perception somehow, your government and the trade industry together, then you will have a lot of investments from coming in. About cooperative farming, I think that's something which we in India have not been able to do because of our own peculiar problems. But in Africa, that should be possible. There are very key things which can be done. I'm sure you will look at them, and Indian investors will also perhaps look at those things and see that because the future is here, as I said, of agriculture. We have Mr. Kajimba here. He's not there. So I have Atul. Atulji, you have been, of course, tracking the global commodities markets, edible oil, soybean, maize, sugar, whatnots. So what is your sense of working together in Africa from India and Africa, the areas of cooperation where we could do things together for our benefit? Of course, we are net importers of edible oil ourselves, so we don't have oil to offer to them. But we do have technology, we do have people, and we do have the money. So what is stopping us? I mean, what kind of cooperation do you foresee between Africa and India in the field of oils?
Sir, first of all, the plants in East and West Africa either run by India or put up by the Indians. So there is definitely some footprints are there for Indians, number one. Number two, yes, there are a lot of joint venture partners are there, both the places, whether India or Benin or everywhere, Ethiopia. Second thing, we have one positive similarity that both the countries are, all the countries of Africa, they are GM, barring South Africa and Malawi. Majority of the country are non-GM, like India. So our crop patterns are same, our production is same, our requirements are same. Third point is that they are also oil deficit country and protein deficit both. It is India mostly oil deficit country. So real challenges are there. The farmers have in Africa to grow new crops. So sometimes they go for soya, so that is the real challenge we are facing. Crops are not consistent, yields are very low. So we can do a lot in improving these things. We can do joint venture if they want. A lot of Indian companies are, because Indian technologies are as good as nowadays Belgium technology or Chinese technology. Maybe in some places, efficiency-wise, we are better than any other country in the world today. On crushing plant, I'm talking about in terms of crushing. Second thing, value-added product I saw virtually zero in Africa. No country except South Africa, there is no place whether we have a soya chunk, soya flour, nutrition. They are as such nutrition short countries. Still, they are not. I don't know why government or World Bank or ad agencies are not doing anything on this. So second sector is the food. Soya food we can do quite a lot together, and it's not that costly item. We can import or can produce local also. These are the challenges and these are the area I think we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Atul. I think you raised a very, very valid point about soya food. I missed that. In fact, we need a lot of soya food in India. SOPA, the organization I represent, Soybean Processors Association, we have now taken it up as a challenge to increase use of soya feed in India because of protein deficiency very prevalent. Now in Africa, I think it is more required than India.
For livestock keeping and animal feed source largely. And so often than not, when we import soya, it's mostly for soya cake, which will be processed further for animal feed. And if we produce or import soya grain, it's mostly for re-exportation. So that being said, a trade between Tanzania and India is likely to be sustained mostly on this product because we are not likely to consume soya oil compared to some other parts of the world. And regarding the production, yes, we do not produce that much currently. We are less than 50,000 metric tons per year. And even when you see export data that goes up to 100,000 metric tons per year, it's mostly because we import largely from our neighbors, Malawi and Zambia, before we re-export. That's why, if you want to notice, you can see that last year's export, but 1 year export was 100,000 metric tons, but last year's export was less than 10,000 because of restrictions that the government put in place in Malawi and Zambia. For last year, the government of Tanzania restricted importation of soya because of disease and all that stuff, and drastically our exports went down. So production is quite low, but there is a very huge potential. There is a study that was conducted that put Tanzania in 5 years, if proper good agricultural agronomic process are followed, then we might hit 1 million metric tons per year production, given the potential, the land, the weather, the availability of inputs and all that stuff. So there is a very huge potential of meeting 1 million metric tons per year. But why are we not getting there? There are, number one, not because we lack market, we have a very rich market locally. As I said before, our animal feed industry is expanding. Our pork industry is very huge and expanding. But also our neighbors like Kenya are importing a lot because of livestock industry, which is quite big. Now, what is hindering our progress is largely because of the unpredictability of the policy that we have in place. For instance, we have areas in Tanzania that are producing so much, the southern part of Tanzania, Songea, very good producers. But there is a moment when policies were changing. There's a moment when buyers could go up country, enter contracts with farmers, supply seeds and fertilizers with expecting getting back the goods. And that went for some time. But it came a point when policies were changed, where buyers were forced to go and buy through cooperatives, through auctions, while contracts were already being signed. And very few people are now have confidence to go and invest same way that they used to do before. So when we get right with policies, and this I mean predictability, then the production is going to go up drastically, just like we have been seeing previous years when there is these hiccups in policies.
Thank you very much, Andrew. That's nice. One question which comes to my mind, if you can answer that. What is the per capita consumption of edible oils in Africa, if you know? I mean, are you consuming more? Are you consuming less? Is there more demand or is there less demand? And what is the preference for various oils? Is palm oil, sun oil, or soybean oil?
Yeah, so Annually, Africa consumes between 25 to 28 million metric tons of edible oil, and the biggest percent, and of course, only 40% of it is produced locally. 60% of it is imported mainly from Asia, and of course, of that 40%, the biggest percentage is palm oil, which is largely produced in West Africa, followed by soya oil, which is also produced in West Africa, but also South Africa produces a lot, Zambia and Malawi as well, as said before, and then followed by sunflower. Now, sunflower is largely produced in Tanzania. We produce between 350,000 metric tons to 400,000. Ringo knows better. But also Zambia and Malawi also is not so far when it comes to sunflower production. So it is between 25 to 28 million metric tons of edible oil that is produced, is consumed in Africa.
You don't produce any peanuts, that means groundnut peanuts, in Africa, whole of Africa?
We produce peanuts,
Or you don't produce
but
peanuts?
having it consumed in oil form, not so much preferred in Africa.
Okay, got it. So, Sab, from you, of course, we would like to know the global perspective. The total edible oil market, I believe, is 235 million tons globally. Palm is the largest contributor, and then the other two oils are soya and rapeseed. And then comes the other oils. Then the fourth is sun oil, and then, of course, the smaller peanuts. And now, this market, I believe in the Western world, they are already eating more than what they should be eating. That's my perception. I mean, they can keep eating more and more. But there are regions in the world, like Africa, for instance, they don't eat enough edible oil. So that's a very skewed kind of demand. And the way soya has been growing year over year over year, now we have reached already some 420, 30 million tons of soybean. I don't know where it's going. So the total balance in edible oils and the palm being at 80 million tons is the largest production, and Africa being able to, perhaps they can go into palm cultivation in a big way, which will produce a lot more oil than from any other crops. Given this scenario, how are the things are going to change between various oils, and is soybean oil continuing to grow and not stop anywhere? What do you think?
That is a very good question. I compliment you for it. Well, how did soybean oil grow to such an extent? It is basically the Western Hemisphere, the Americas. They led the world in agricultural revolution and produced it. They have fabulous demand for meat, chicken meat, and so that's how historically it favored. Other one is that I would just like to remind of something which all of us know, that palm is native to Africa. The oil palm went from here to the botanical garden in Singapore as a decorative tree, and then it was expanded. And region is very friendly. And in between, what happened was that rubber, a lot of synthetic rubber came up. So rubber plantations were cut down and palm was expanded in Malaysia. And then came AIDS, because then the rubber demand went up. And so that's the history of palm. Still, if you count the 70 million tons of palm production in the world, 40 is Indonesia, about 20 is, so 10 million is from Africa. And so therefore, why not it come back to Africa? And we have like, the southern part of Africa is very, very conducive. So that is one. We know from nutritional point of view, certain amount of oil is necessary in food, because oil is a carrier of certain nutritional aspects and tocopherols, etc., which are then protective. And, well, too much consumption of any commodity, even water, is injurious to health. Now, Western world again, because being the most prosperous economically, they eat a lot. And they eat food which has been industrially prepared. So that food invariably contains an average of 30% oil. So what you cook at home might have 5 to 10% oil, and what you get from outside, even a biscuit has 30%. Bread is the only one which has little less. So they end up consuming so much, and injurious to health, of course. And other one is that when you talk of an average in a continent like Africa or India, Indian subcontinent, you're taking an average of people who hardly get any oil to eat. Large number at the bottom of the pyramid is those. And at the top, there are people consuming a lot. The Western kind of food is imported if they don't make there. So these averages are misleading. We need segmentation to the nutrition profile of food, how much oil. And possibly then we'll know that the bottom of the pyramid, the middle, need to increase the consumption. And the other elephant in the room is the biodiesel. So we want to fuel our lorries with that, or also aeroplanes through the sustainable aviation fuel. That is the latest thing. And for that, the production need to grow manifold. And so therefore focus back on Africa, that so much land is available, not still being utilized. There could be a lot of reasons like small farmer, subsistence farmer, commercial, as our friend has said. And we need to institutionalize it. And there are in the international law a lot of protection available to investment. And there are attorneys who will tell you what kind of agreements to enter, what kind of guarantees to take from the government. And so people should invest.
You said biodiesel. Now, oil is one commodity. Ethanol, you can make diesel. Now, given the situation that the population is increasing, and we should be perhaps more than 9 billion people by 2050, and the land is certainly shrinking all over the world because of infrastructure development, urbanization, and a lot of other reasons. Now we are going to continue to eat food. There's no way that we will eat something else other than food. So this thing between food and feed and fuel, how do you think it's going to change this use of food for fuel? Is it going to be a continuous phenomenon? Or you see some changes coming in the future, some realization that fuel is fuel, food is food, and perhaps you can ride in a bullock cart, but you can't live without food. And how soon these dynamics will start changing, which will affect the entire edible oil sector, because biodiesel is a big thing, as you said. Malaysia is using a lot of it for diesel. US has already a mandate for using soybean oil. So how do you think this is going to change?
The global petroleum consumption is 4.7 billion tons, 4.7 billion. And we just now gave a number of 235 million of oils. Convert them into biodiesel, you lose some glycerin. So your yield will be 5% less. So you end up at about 295 or 285 million tons versus what you're trying to replace is 4.7 billion tons. So no, all of us go without food, simple. You just put the whole thing there. And I have included tallow in it, that those who eat tallow or use it for soap making or cosmetics. So the world will have to rethink, but they won't rethink soon. Because the rich countries, barring Malaysia, Indonesia, others are rich. They can put all their soybean and sunflower and canola into fuel tank. And and the South, the African countries, India, Pakistan, will suffer without food, we'll have inflation. And other one is that this 235 may not remain 235. We have Dr. Salim here. He's an outstanding plant scientist. Well, one dimension they are working. The other dimension is that you don't know which shape global warming will take. It is forecast that next 10, 15 years you will have another rise of 1%. And as Deepak said very, very effectively yesterday, that it means 30% of food less with that kind of temperature rise. So you have shrinking food, shrinking land, as you said, and some people putting it in the fuel tank. So there you are.
Very, very interesting, sir. Dr. Syed Salim, sir, since you are an agriculture specialist, so we come to that subject. And with reference to Africa, the land available and the opportunities available, what is stopping us from doing this? And what are the ways in which India and Africa can collaborate to help both of us? That means a win-win for India and win-win for Africa also. Of course, we have the technology, we have the scientists, we have a lot of other things, and you have the land. So how can we collaborate, and what requires to be done?
Thank you very much. First of all, I had the opportunity to work in India at AGRI. Yeah, I was there. Okay. So I know what in flour in Tanzania, the research is very recent.